entrepreneurship basis module. This module is going to cover the historical evolution of social entrepreneurship and the preconditions for the emergence of it. The module will also examine the nature of social entrepreneurship, its role in an economy, and the factors impacting the development of social entrepreneurship. The elements of social entrepreneurship are analysed, and the criteria for identifying a social enterprise in Europe, the case of Latvia, are also analysed. So the topics we will look at will be the development stages of social entrepreneurship and preconditions for its formation, the nature of social entrepreneurship and its constituent elements, the assessment of the criteria for identifying a social enterprise, the role of social entrepreneurship in modern economic sectors, the factors determining the development of social entrepreneurship, the functions of a social entrepreneurship, some cases of social enterprises, and the role of social entrepreneurship within the context of socially responsible states. So the development stages of social entrepreneurship and the preconditions for its formation. The concept social entrepreneurship is a relatively new one, yet such a kind of entrepreneurship was known a long time ago. Initially, it was closely associated with various social and religious movements, as business development was hindered until the 17th century. So we had the three periods: the period of philanthropy, period of global social movements, and the social entrepreneurship period from the early 1990s to present. So the period of philanthropy from the 18th century to the early 20th century was the early kinds of social entrepreneurship was specific to philanthropy and religious movements. Therefore, social entrepreneurs were often called humanists, philanthropists, or reformers. The most famous early social entrepreneurs were R. Owen. He initiated a cooperative movement and proposed childcare in Great Britain. Florence Nightingale, he established the first professional school for nurses. And H. Durant, whose activities led to the foundation of the International Red Cross. In this period, the emergence of social entrepreneurship was facilitated by industrialization and the development of free markets, which, on the one hand, contributed to the increase in well-being for certain social groups, while on the other hand, the emergence of poverty. This period may be regarded as the beginning of social entrepreneurship. However, it was not social entrepreneurship in the modern sense, as organizations were not obliged to make profit. The period of global social movements from the 1950s to the early 1990s was as the society developed, various social and political movements that struggled for the rights of certain social groups facing discrimination emerged. During this period, J. Durand, in 1964, he founded a social enterprise employing people with special needs. And M. Silbert, who in 1970 established Delancey Street, a social enterprise for addicted people to rehabilitate them. They may be regarded as social entrepreneurship pioneers. In this period, 1960s and 1970s, such concepts as social entrepreneur and social entrepreneurship appeared in the scientific literature for the first time. But these concepts became more popular owing to the founder of the organization, Ashoka. Ashoka was the first global organization founded for the purpose of promoting social entrepreneurship. For the social entrepreneurship period, the early 1990s to present, this is modern social entrepreneurship, began with the activities of M. Young, who globally established more than 60 organizations, including several social entrepreneur schools in Great Britain from 1950 to 1990. Over the recent 20 years, social entrepreneurship was fostered by several global trends. the transition from the welfare model to the neoliberal model, and the increasing competition for funding in the non-governmental sector. Social entrepreneurship affected by these factors became increasingly urgent. The preconditions for the formation of social entrepreneurship in the first period was industrialization and problems caused by free markets. In the second period, there was the collapse of the totalitarian regimes, development of information and communication technologies, and in the third period, the inability of governments to tackle social economic problems, competition for funding in the non-governmental sector. The concept social entrepreneurship is a relatively new one, yet such a kind of entrepreneurship was known a long time ago. Initially, it was closely associated with various social and religious movements. Social enterprises emerge as the response mechanism to problems caused by the market or to government problems in providing public services, and as a result of the increasing competition in the non-governmental sector. Social entrepreneurship is of great importance, especially during economic recessions when third sector funding and government support significantly decrease, and innovative, sustainable ways of tackling socio-economic problems have to be sought. The concept of social entrepreneurship becomes increasingly topical in the world, therefore. Various authors have sought to develop an optimal definition. Yet, among scientists, there is no consensus on the definitions of social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. Consequently, the collection of statistical data on social enterprises and further comparative studies are problematic. To systemize the terms of social entrepreneurship, three elements are outlined based on the key motive included in the definition: an individual, social entrepreneur; a process, social entrepreneurship; or a business entity, social enterprise. So what constitutes the elements of a social enterprise? When defining the concept of social entrepreneur, the main focus is placed on an individual, a group of individuals who establish a social enterprise and the individual's skills and abilities, thus stressing the personality of social entrepreneur. You have the individual, the process, and a business entity. Both the early economic theoreticians and modern economists associate entrepreneurs with their abilities and skills to perceive and use opportunities and create innovation, as well as to take risks, contribute to changes in society, mobilize resources. Yet the key difference between social and traditional for-profit entrepreneurs is motivation. Traditional entrepreneurs are mainly motivated by financial gains, whereas social entrepreneurs prioritize their social mission, a wish to contribute to the public good and tackle socio-economic problems. After summarizing all her theoretical studies, the following definition of social entrepreneur could be developed. A social entrepreneur is a socially and ethically motivated individual who, by doing business, tackles social economic problems and creates positive changes in the society. So the social entrepreneurship, in a broader sense, social entrepreneurship is understood as the creation of innovative social assets, which may take place in both the public, private, and third sectors. It means that such a kind of activity can be performed both within a social enterprise and outside it. Yet, in a narrow sense, social entrepreneurship means a process, the foundation of social enterprises. Even though the definitions focus on a process, it does not exclude the role of an individual in it, as any process involves people, activities, and organization. It means that social entrepreneurship includes the elements specific to social enterprises and social entrepreneurs. Within the present research, social entrepreneurship is defined as a kind of entrepreneurship, the priority of which is the creation of social assets, ensuring the financial self-sustaining and sustainability of the enterprise. So the social enterprise. There are different opinions about the nature and legal form of social enterprise among economists and social entrepreneurs. The different understandings of social enterprises were caused by the lack of criteria for identifying social enterprises. Since social entrepreneurship is not legally recognized in Latvia, in the doctoral dissertation based on her theoretical studies, the author developed her own definition of social enterprise appropriate for the situation in Latvia in order to suggest it to the Ministry of Welfare. To achieve this goal, first criteria of social enterprise are determined. So, identifying a social enterprise. The criteria for identifying a social enterprise. To elaborate accurate criteria for identifying a social enterprise, the criteria and principles of social enterprises suggested by various organizations and scientists were analyzed. Founder of social entrepreneurship theory, M. Yunus, suggests 7 basic principles of social entrepreneurship. One is the purpose of social enterprise is to prevent poverty or social problems rather than to make profit. The enterprise has to be financially and economically sustainable. Investors are allowed to get back only their principal investment and no interest is paid. When investments are paid back, the profit is used for the enhancement and expansion of the enterprise. The enterprise takes a responsible attitude to the environment. Its employees are paid according to the market situation and are subject to better working conditions. Work at the enterprise is done with pleasure. One of the most accurate and justified criteria were developed by the European Research Network, which classified economic and social criteria for identifying a social enterprise. Criteria of a social enterprise were also identified by such researchers as K. Alter, J. Pierce, J. L. Thompson, and B. Doherty. Yet their understanding of social enterprise is different, as well as their number of criteria proposed is different, varying from 3 to 9. After analysing the scientific literature on social entrepreneurship, one can conclude that no international uniform criteria are available to define a social enterprise. We say the criteria for a social enterprise, it's the priority of a social enterprise is the goal of tackling a social or environmental problem that is important to society. The employment of socially sensitive groups of people and/or their participation in an enterprise's management or the supply of property, services, goods to socially sensitive groups of people at a lower price that fits their income level. To identify an enterprise as a social enterprise, it has to meet one of the 2 social criteria in the context of socially sensitive groups of people. The enterprise has to employ socially sensitive groups of people, not less than 50%, or other groups of people if the entrepreneur can prove that they belong to the status of socially sensitive groups of people. The enterprise has to supply priority services, goods to poor and/or low-income social groups at a lower price that fits their income level. A significant criterion for identifying social enterprises is its economic, social, and environmental sustainability, which is closely associated with the financial and economic situation of the enterprise. The economic criteria for social enterprises, one of the primary economic criteria is their engagement in commercial activities which generates income. It means that they operate according to the business principles, as it is important to ensure the self-sustaining or financial and economic sustainability of these enterprises. Yet a significant focus has to be placed on the revenue gained from selling a service or a good. In situations when 30% to 40% of the enterprise's budget consists of central or local government funding, the enterprise appears to be a charity organization. The author, based on the experiences of other countries and the scientific findings, suggests that an acceptable rate of external funds received from the central and local governments and as donations may compose up to 20% of the total revenue of social enterprises. Another significant criteria for identifying a social enterprise relates to profit and its distribution. It is suggested that profit making is an essential precondition for achieving the social goal, yet the profit of a social enterprise may not be distributed among the owners, but it is invested in achieving its social goals, expanding the enterprise's activity, or building up its reserves. In a situation when a social enterprise is liquidated, its accrued profit and assets are transferred to another social enterprise. In Latvia, the institutional administration of such profits is carried out by the Ministry of Welfare. It transfers the profits of a liquidated social enterprise to the Social Entrepreneurship Fund to ensure that the implementation of initial goals is continued. An essential criterion of social enterprise is also social investment. In a social enterprise, investors get back their initial investments and no interest is paid. It is also important to include criterion on employee wages, which have to be adequate and correspond to the market situation. The term adequate is intentionally used in order to avoid the risk of potential fraud. To achieve the social goal, it is important to engage socially sensitive groups of people in the social enterprise. In accordance with Latvia's legislation, socially sensitive groups of people are defined as poor or low-income persons, families, and socially protected groups of people, as these groups face social exclusion in the labour market. These groups that have to be engaged in a social enterprise may include families bringing up 3 or more children, single-parent families, the disabled, overworking age individuals, individuals released from imprisonment. Poor and low-income families also qualify for the status of socially sensitive groups of people as their income is low. The status of poor family is granted in accordance with the Cabinet Regulation number 299, regulations regarding declaring a family or an individual poor. They may be grouped as long-term unemployed individuals, the homeless, individuals addicted to alcohol, drugs, psychotropic and toxic substances, and gambling or computer games, and their families, families bringing up a disabled child, or individuals who suffered from violence. May also include youth with poor basic skills, i.e. the individuals with primary education who do not continue their studies, pre-retirement age individuals, economical re-immigrants in emigration for more than 2 years, parents after childcare who leave in a 2-parent family until the child reaches 3 years of age, and a single-parent family until the child reaches school age, i.e. the age of 7. In a traditional sense, entrepreneurship means the supply, distribution, and sales of goods and services. Social entrepreneurship actually deals with the same, but unlike a traditional entrepreneurship, it directly contributes to the public by tackling important social or environmental problems, which often is the task of non-governmental or public sector. One can conclude that social entrepreneurship partially fulfills the functions of both the private, public, and non-governmental or third sectors. Therefore, among scientists, there is no consensus concerning its role in the economic sectors. Based on the scientific findings regarding the nature and functions of social entrepreneurship, it could be defined as an intersectorial phenomenon that combines the elements of all 3 sectors. So social entrepreneurship is the intersectoral phenomenon that combines the elements of all 3 economic sectors: private, public, and non-governmental. So what are the factors involved in the development of a social enterprise? Political and legal factors, economic factors, social and cultural factors, and technological factors. Within the political and legal factors, the lack of government support is mentioned as one of the key factors that hinder the development of social entrepreneurship. Researchers point out that the government has to create an adequate legal framework for regulating social entrepreneurship and to introduce support instruments for fostering its development. Economic factors refer to the availability of external funds. Social enterprises use various sources of external funds, grants, loans, and other sources. However, high interest rates and bureaucratic procedures often create problems to social entrepreneurs in getting funds. It is suggested that banks may cooperate with social enterprises and finance them. Social enterprises are also affected by economic cycles and competition in the private sector. Compared with traditional enterprises, such enterprises are less competitive, which is determined by their lower productivity and higher costs due to employing socially sensitive groups of people. The social and cultural factors described several essential aspects have to be stressed. First, the public lacks an understanding of and knowledge of social entrepreneurship. The organizer of the first social entrepreneurship forum in Latvia notes that in Latvia, many social entrepreneurs even do not know they are social entrepreneurs. This problem in Latvia is especially urgent as there is a lack of information on social entrepreneurship in the Latvian language. Secondly, a significant problem is the dominant way of capitalistic thinking when profit making is a priority, which promoted the creation of culture of individualism. Third, the culture of government benefits recipients' strengths. This lifestyle becomes increasingly popular. People expect assistance from others rather than seek to change their lifestyle and solve their problems. The technological factors. A study conducted by B. Hines 2009 reveals that the internet is an important factor affecting social entrepreneurship as it plays an important role in selling goods and services. The advancement of technologies and communication facilitates the exchange of information and experience as well. The quantitative functions of a social enterprise is the promotion of employment, reduction of poverty, and the promotion of entrepreneurship. In accordance with the European Parliament resolution of the 19th of February 2009 on social economy, the social economy is represented by 10% of the total number of European enterprises and accounts for 6% of the total employment. Besides, social enterprises employ socially sensitive groups of people with a relatively low employment rate, thereby contributing to the reintegration of socially excluded employees into the labour market. With the reduction of poverty, social entrepreneurship plays a significant role. Research performed by Hernando de Soto in 2000 and M. Yunis in 2003 revealed that the cause of poverty is the systematic exclusion of socially sensitive individuals from the labour market and public life. C.H. Prahalad suggests that it is time to stop thinking of the poor as victims or a burden. They have to be perceived as potential entrepreneurs. For instance, the bank Grameen, founded by M. Yunis, is owned by poor individuals and it grants loans to poor individuals in Bangladesh. As a result, annually 5% of the bank's borrowers get out of poverty. With the promotion of entrepreneurship, according to practices in the world, social enterprises are active in various industries. In the regions of Latvia, the social economic problems are different, which means that the activity of social enterprises might be differentiated and focused on tackling different problems. So the social enterprises, the other qualitative functions, is the advancement in social status, the promotion of innovation, and the development of entrepreneurial ability. So the advancement in social status, social entrepreneurship plays an essential role in raising the social status of socially sensitive individuals, which may be facilitated by employee training conducted at social enterprises. This is confirmed by, for instance, the microcredit cooperatives founded by Yunis that contribute to improving financial conditions and increasing the role of women in society. Promotes innovation. C. Leadbeater suggests that social enterprises may become a significant source of social innovation. Social innovation is a new approach to tackling social problems. It is more efficient and sustainable than the current solutions and primarily benefits the public as a whole rather than individuals. It develops the entrepreneurial ability. Studies have shown that the use of human resources in entrepreneurship in Latvia revealed that 69% of the respondents lacked entrepreneurial ability and knowledge. Yet such skills are needed, as entrepreneurship is a basis for creating jobs and developing a competitive and sustainable region. Yunus emphasizes that anyone can become an entrepreneur if they are given an opportunity, and such an opportunity may be given in social enterprises. For the case of a social enterprise in Latvia that is named Woolly World, the year of the foundation and status was 2011. The type of activity was production of toys, and the employees were 4 individuals with special needs, weak-sighted. So the owners and managers of the social enterprises understand the concept of social enterprise differently. There is no single definition of social entrepreneurship, yet to identify a social enterprise, the key criteria to be met by social enterprise are as follows: social goal priority, engagement in commercial activities, social and economic sustainability, employment of socially sensitive groups of people, and profit reinvestment. These criteria fit the criteria of social enterprise. In Latvia, social enterprises take the form of a businessman or an association, yet the case study evidences that the legal form of an association limits the operation of a social enterprise. Therefore, its business form is more appropriate for social enterprises. For all the organisations examined in the case study, the priority is the social goal, and socially sensitive groups of people are engaged in their operations. Here is another case of social enterprise in Latvia. It's called Mamu Production, founded in 2010 as an association. 2010 became limited. The type of activity was the production of exclusive accessories, mainly scarves, and the employees were 7 young mothers aged 17 to 20, located in the Riga area. For all these organisations examined in the case study, as I said, the priority is the social goal and the socially sensitive groups of people who are engaged in the operation, mainly as employees, while in the case of Samaritan Association of Latvia, they are consumers of social and medical services. All these organisations are engaged in commercial activities, and if they have a positive performance result at the end of the year, their profit is reinvested. In Latvia, the most acute problem that limits the development of social enterprises is important, given their need to adapt infrastructures for individuals from socially sensitive groups, the lower labour productivity, as well as greater time consumption for training such employees. The case of Sinavita reveals that a lack of personal funds to purchase capital assets for capital-intensive activities is a limitative factor for starting up social enterprises. Here we have recommended some literature about social enterprises or social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship, what everyone needs to know. Social entrepreneurship, development possibilities in Latvia. Building social business, the new kind of capitalism that serves humanity's most pressing needs. So thank you for your attention and happy learning.